today's episode, I'm joined by Olyvia Salyer, a top producing real estate agent with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Towne, Realty in Williamsburg, Virginia. Olivia's background in psychology and marketing has given her a unique edge in the industry, and she's leveraging AI to take her business to the next level. From sharpening her competitive analysis to automating the mundane and freeing up time for what she does best, building relationships and negotiating deals. She shares her go-to AI tools that have given her the gift of time. Tune in. Are you a real estate agent eager to unlock the power of AI to boost your productivity and scale your business? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Real Estate AI Flash, the weekly podcast that takes AI from a buzzword to a business tool, making it approachable and actionable for agents like you. I'm your host, Rajiv Sajja, and each week I interview agents from across the country who are using AI to transform their careers. Join us on this journey to become an AI skilled agent and take your real estate career to the next level. Now let's get to this episode. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate AI Flash, and today I have a real estate rock star from Williamsburg or Chesapeake, depending on which office you see her in. From Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Towne Realty, Olyvia Salyer is with us on the pod. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. I am so excited to be here. It is honestly kind of a dream because guess how I got into AI was watching this podcast. So
yeah, but you are in the top 250 agents. The reason you're a rock star is top 250 agents of the entire global Berkshire Hathaway network of 50,000 agents. And you and I were talking the other day about how you were sort of taking a deep dive into AI. And so we'll get into it. But I'd love for the audience to kind of learn a little bit more about Olivia, your journey into real estate, and how you got to become the top agent at your brokerage.
Well, thank you. I've had a little bit of a winding journey. I went to the College of William Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, and my degree at William Mary is actually psychology, which does come into play quite a bit with my real estate career. But my family all lives in this area. I grew up in Williamsburg, basically, after my father retired from the Army, and I just didn't want to be here anymore. So I moved straight to New York City after I graduated and had about 7 years in marketing up in the city. So really got into it right when social media was becoming a thing, was very heavily entrenched in digital, as well as, more classic marketing avenues, global marketing, and how to really effectively do a brand launch. And that was amazing background information, but I didn't see myself in New York City for a long period of time. So I ended up deciding that I would move back home. And one of the reasons I wanted to come back was specifically to get into real estate. It was a strategic move, but my mother actually is a Class A contractor and a nationally known designer. And so I grew up in her job sites. And so, I look back on it and it was the most annoying thing to have to go to fabric stores and select granites and do all of these things. But now I am absolutely the most grateful because I can walk into any house and tell you what tier granite is got on the countertops, what level of finishes it has. And so that just background knowledge really gave me a jumping off point. And so I could combine my marketing knowledge with my knowledge of houses that truly, I think, accelerated my career. And so moved back here, obviously knew this area here in Williamsburg, Virginia, with that knowledge and just hit the ground running. And so I ended up selling 19 homes my first year in real estate, which is, the stats.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I was once I did that first deal, though, I knew this was supposed to be my career. This is what I was built for, and so it's been the same since. And I'm very grateful to be in the top echelon of Berkshire Hathaway, and I love it.
Yeah, and you're also part of the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Rethink Council.
Yes, yeah.
Which, in my opinion, I think those are the finest agents. Again, there's obviously 50,000, but there's a subset of that I think they're the future legends in our industry. Personally, the way I look at all the people, the talent that's in that room, and you're part of that, so that's great. And interestingly, you say yesterday we had we call it Breakfast of Champions. It's like a regional thing. An agent said, I came to the company 3 weeks ago and I had 7 deals in my first 3 weeks, and I'm going to keep it going. And people are looking around. You did 7 deals in 3 weeks?
3 weeks?
So it's not, it's the bar you set for yourself, and you've set a high bar for yourself, Olivia. So that's awesome.
Well,
So
it's good you mentioned that because I only compete with myself.
that's
My
right.
last year's numbers are what I'm gunning for this year, and that laser focus has helped me grow year over year.
100%. Yeah, that's great. So, whatever, I mean, AI, different people have sort of gotten into AI at different stages of their career or personal life or whatever. What was your first light bulb moment of AI?
Well, so it's great that you've already mentioned the Rethink Council because when I was selected for Rethink, I was put into this amazing group of agents. And it's so beneficial to have that national network and to be able to tap into agents who are in different markets because something you haven't even thought of may work in your market and it's not competitive at all. So the free sharing of ideas and just the generosity of all of the agents on the council with how they do things and their background processes was huge.
Yeah.
That was really my first exposure. I was so grateful to be in the first year Rethink Council with Jimmy Burgess, who, if anybody's
Yeah.
watching this pod, there has been featured here quite a bit, and is he's the first person who really talked to me about AI, and I started to understand what it could be used for because beforehand it was just like this kind of conceptual thing. It's going to steal your face, right? No, it's and so I, through talking to him and seeing how he was using it and just some of the processes he was doing about a year ago, I really started to think, okay, if I'm going to grow my business, already, selling probably about 60 houses a year on average, I am maxed out, right? How do we then evolve and how do we get better? How do we figure out time management? And most of what I do in my day to day is trying to become more efficient.
Yeah.
So that's really where it was something where I thought, okay, this is where I can really get a lot of things off my plate so I can focus on what I'm really the best at. And that is negotiating. That's my people forward presentation. That's me in the room selling. And so that being able to automate, being able to get rid of some of my most hated tasks has just freed me to go and do deals and to be myself and get some really major listings coming as well this year. So I also think part of me was waiting for this to happen because back in the day, like there's a picture of me when I'm not even 1 years old watching Star Trek with my dad.
Mm.
And the background world of Star Trek is just such an optimistic place, but you can tell, like, given that kind of technology, they would need to fully be integrated with some of these things. So like that's the future. And
Yeah.
that's what really gets me excited. Because if we get rid of all this stuff that takes so much time, we could truly be our best selves as humans. And I believe that, I believe humanity is going to integrate with AI in a really intelligent way. I mean, you can read the Singularity book. I just forgot the name of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that. I think the this year is going to be that year of separation for agents that need
you need to
kind of
get it now.
dig in
Yeah,
to that point of I believe our business is always going to be human because
uh,
people do business with people and not bots in a way. But to your point, to get to invest in those relationships and do more, AI will give you the gift of time,
that's what I
right?
need.
Or
I
collapse time if you
never
can
enough time.
automate the ordinary stuff so you can personalize the extraordinary, right? So I'm a firm believer in human in the loop. And
Yep.
for me, in my role, I've realized about a 30% improvement in productivity in things I am doing in my role. But to your point, I tell people, where do you start, right? You start, obviously, you sort of experiment with things, obviously, but start with making a simple list, things that are repetitive tasks you need to do in your job, in
That I
your
hate.
role.
I literally like I had a post-it note and I was like, oh,
That's
I really
it.
like
And
doing
then
this.
time consuming tasks.
Yeah.
Some of them go across the board on all of them. The
Yep.
third is stuff that you need to do that is like data heavy, like market stats, stuff like that, data heavy. And the fourth is things that are frustrating you about real estate that you wish somebody else did for you,
Yep.
or things that you know you need to do that
But
you just can't.
never.
And start there, and your cases will pop in terms of where you want to focus on, so you can really get the productivity enhancement. So good takeaways there for your light bulb moment. So when you and I were talking last week or whenever it was to prepare for this, you mentioned that you got the $200 a month. So OpenAI has
Cool.
three
I just
plans.
jumped right
Actually,
in.
there's way more than three, but let's just talk the three that we can actually afford.
Yes, yeah,
So
I'm not trying to do
no,
one of
the free is where everybody should start. You will soon get to a point where you need to do more and you just can't because of the limits and etc. $20 a month is where I suggest everyone minimally start if you want to really dig in.
block some of the things.
And then I upgraded to the 200 and I heard you did the same. So let's kind of dig in on specific things that you feel you want to get out of AI or you're getting out of AI that agents listening can benefit.
Well, for me, it's with regards to like the 200 level. I think the access to the deep analysis, I mean, I don't use Google anymore. I use ChatGPT for search and everything. It's on my phone, it's on my laptop, it's in my
Yeah,
browser, and having access to me, because of my marketing background, I would say deep marketing analysis. And that is my brand, that is competitive analysis, that is anything that I want to maybe get into. I've keyed up all of my top competitors and I basically made it do a deep dive research to how they're using social, what they're saying, their marketing stats, what they keep posting regularly, their
yeah.
brand voice. And I now have a hit list of every single person that I compete with in the different markets that I'm in and how they're messaging and the
Great
frequency
takeaway right
messaging.
there. Yeah, I
And
mean, go ahead, finish up.
and I was going to say, I did it on myself as well. And so now I have a direct comparison in a way that is beneficial to grow. And so
Yeah,
I can take what they're doing. Maybe they're doing something better than me. Well, I would like to do that as well, or integrate something that maybe be working that I didn't think about.
yeah, for sure. So interesting you mentioned, the pro upgrade. I was in India in late January and with my son, and I got back on that Feb 1 Sunday, Feb 2 that weekend.
I like right when it.
Yeah, and that Sunday evening is when they launched the deep research
Yeah.
product in Pro, and I said, "That's my cue."
Yeah. I
And
got it like 2 days after that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but if you're listening to this pod, I mean, a month in AI is like a year in normal technology. So,
Yeah.
if if you're a big Google fan, we'll put a link in the show notes. I did a video on the free features available in Gemini.
Oh, yeah. I did see that one. It was great.
Okay. In
Great.
Gemini, one of the models is deep research.
Yeah.
So if budget is tight,
Try it.
know that you could use that. Again, my goal is not to have you flip about, you can't keep changing models. You got to pick
Right.
one and kind of go deep, right? But if you're a Google shop, I mean, that Google's done some amazing things in the last 2 weeks
Yeah.
that you should just check out the video in the show notes. You could do deep research, but the point is well taken, is leveraging AI to get insights on your competitors that you go up against constantly on listing appointments, right? So you can sort of talk about that. That's amazing takeaway.
And for me too, it wasn't like I'm creating an email market campaign to take them down. No, this is information for you to be better yourself.
Yeah.
And, like I mentioned before, the only person I'm competing with is myself, but I have a constant growth mindset. But I just don't have the time to be Googling around and doing this own analysis myself like I would have done when I was back in my New York career. I mean, this kind of analysis would have taken me weeks, which
Weeks.
is incredible. And it spits it out in like less than 10 minutes sometimes. Like
Yeah.
it's truly the information is really the power. And how you use it is where the human element comes into play. And
We did the same thing to your point about deep research before, Gemini came out and all that. But I think if those of you that get deep into understanding AI models, Gemini is more of a large language model that is primarily around GPT. This whole definition of GPT is generative pre-trained transformer. It's just trained on internet content, but doesn't think on its own, and it just pulls stuff together in a report. It's still much better than what you could ever do. It searches like hundreds of websites. I mean, just imagine the amount of research you do. The deep research model through OpenAI, ChatGPT, is a thinking model. So it goes down one path and says, "Oh, this is not a good path." It actually thinks on its own, almost like a human does.
yeah,
But no matter which one you use, we did the competitive research, to your point, Olivia, for our company when
yeah,
we're attracting agents for other brokerages, and we've actually built a custom GPT for our managers for
recruitment.
recruiting conversations.
That's
So
fantastic.
there's so many ways you could go, but as an agent, If you're listening to this pod, that's a great takeaway. If you're going into a listing appointment, you already have a leg up because you know your competitors' weaknesses, your strengths, and you can align them appropriately.
Well, and I even like I made my own custom GTP for that, and that's like
Yeah.
my competitive analysis GTP. So it remembers now because I love the memory feature. And
Yeah.
at this point, I talk to it. So like I'm in the car, obviously, hour, 2 hours sometimes, and
Oh, yeah.
I love the talking feature too. So I've
It is awesome.
I mean, I use it for hours every day now. I just talk at it. I'm like, hey, can you remind me XYZ or refresh what they did on Instagram 2 days ago while I'm like
Yeah.
my way to a listing appointment in which I know I'm competing with them against. So now I have all the information I need to be successful.
Yeah, and the advanced voice mode, which you're referring to in ChatGPT, as of this recording, because I have to say that every single time,
Yeah,
because
because
tomorrow
it
something's going to come out. As of this recording, is the best voice mode in large language models. I've tried all of them, but that's the go-to because it's true voice mode,
and
and
you
going
can
back and forth.
you can make it sound how you want. You give it a name and you can make it like interpret, somebody's style for you or like, tell me this in, Brian Buffini's ethos.
Yeah,
I want to hear it with that
100%.
positive. And so for me, I'm a very, I hate to say touchy and feely, but a lot about what I do does come down to emotion. And so that's really why I like the chat GTP models because again,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah.
so,
I don't know if it happens to you when you talk to advanced voice mode on ChatGPT, the big blue circle that comes
yeah,
up, right?
it,
So sometimes it tries to interrupt you when you start to take a break.
yeah.
So I found a neat little trick. If you didn't know this, if you're listening, press the blue button when you start talking, and when you release it is when it starts to respond.
Oh, well, that's good to know because yeah, it does kind of interrupt me if I'm taking.
Sometimes, but yeah, this
Yeah.
way you want to share all your thoughts and stop, and then let it respond. So press the blue button.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
anyway, so
So that's one use
what are
case.
some other areas, Olivia, that you're sort of leveraging it on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis?
So I use a bunch of different tools. Some of it, and I took some notes so I would remember all of my different
Yeah,
tools. It's truly just I've integrated it as much as I possibly can. Instead of having really support staff, I have a couple of people who do help me on day-to-day tasks, but I don't have a marketing manager. I don't have anyone creating any assets for me. I don't have anyone making my market analysis. I now do this all with a couple minutes from things that I've built. And so Canva, huge one.
yeah,
Almost all of the new logos, like I have a radio show here locally, and I made that entire logo a couple of minutes in Canva, which was fantastic. I just gave it a prompt and it did it. And of course, there's some tweaking that you need to
yeah.
do. It Nothing's ever perfect, but like to me, the hardest part is getting started on a task. And if it gives you that starting spot, then you get it done. And it doesn't have to be perfect if it's done, but it still should be good. So that's really where I'm utilizing it. Also, I love the magic eraser. I've used
Oh
that
yeah,
so
great.
many times. Like, the cat peeks its head out at a listing picture and you're like, we're not going to redo that. We don't have time to go back to the house.
Yeah,
So having that and having it be perfect from that without even having to pay the photographer to do that, it's great. So super easy on that. And if you're just taking, don't recommend take iPhone photos for your listings, but if you're doing some content that's for stories or something, great to just slot it in there and take care of that really quickly. Again, it's the reduction of time that's so fantastic.
100%. Yeah. So Canva is a great takeaway. I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff with AI, obviously, with Magic Write and Erase and all those things. And I alluded to Google. Google's also released a really good image generator eraser.
Heard
When
about
I
it.
did the video, Olivia, I uploaded a picture of mine,
Okay.
my headshot with, the
Yeah.
jacket I was wearing. I told her to change the jacket,
Ah, that's
and
cool. Front jacket. And
it did it like, so
it's
I'm
so
almost feeling like,
it's awesome.
do I need a photographer now, like to change the look and feel?
I
It's
don't.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah. You want to be like, hey, I want to be more casual, like you can. Or if I want to be
yeah,
in a luxury house, put me there. And it's quick and easy. And for most things that I think real estate agents are doing on a day-to-day basis, like they don't need super high quality. Now, if you're selling $300 million houses, ultra luxury, different story. But for most of us who are, day to day, uh, you know, on it full time, but normal agents, these tools are invaluable. And
Yeah.
it has truly freed me up to take on more listings, to take on more clients, to do the things that AI cannot do, which was the human element.
Yeah,
But
100%.
I
So
also,
your tech stack, if I had to call it your AI stack of
yeah,
tools, right? Which technically could change because of the innovation that's happening, but ChatGPT is the foundation, right?
foundation.
In creating content, all the things that you can do with it, custom GPTs, et cetera. And then you have Canva.
Yeah, so I'd say Canva's on this side, and then next to Canva is Gamma. I use that for presentations. And so,
Oh, you're my well, so you're my second guest that mentioned Gamma. I live
love
in
it.
Gamma.
It would take me a week to create something that it does in seconds from when I
Love
used
that.
to work in marketing. And I
Yeah.
mean, I would be in, in notes and PowerPoint and all these different apps on my computer for hours trying to make it look pretty,
Yeah.
and it just spits it out. And you just give it your brand colors, your headshots. You just, it's
100%.
so,
Create a theme, as I call it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you create your theme, use that across all it, and it, because it searches, you can just tell it what you want.
Yeah.
And, and so for me, once I've got kind of a template going, I can say, hey, use this template and put in this, and it's done in seconds. So now every single listing, whether it's 300,000 or 3 million, gets a gorgeous presentation, and I can print that really, nice on nice paper in 5 seconds, or I can bring it digitally. And like what I try to push in my market, because a lot of my competitors are older, they're storied agents who've been here, 20, 30 years. My community is very much like it was originally a retirement hotspot. And so I'm like the only 30 something year old in the room. And I lean into that though,
Yeah.
because what I can do and what I can show them that I can do with data and analytics, and how I can and analyze their views on Zillow and what that means for showings, that's a game changer. No one can even compete with me. And that stuff takes me 5 minutes to put together.
100%. I think if you're listening to this pod, one of the things I've always been telling in 2025, be prepared when you go into a listing appointment. If you have a savvy client, they're hearing about AI also.
So
So
there,
what if they ask you, the agent, how are you leveraging AI to market my home? You got to
exactly.
be prepared to answer the question. And the stuff that you're talking about, like market stats and putting the right eyeballs in the right places, social media, all those things are powered by AI, and you can proactively address the question before it even comes up.
Exactly. And one of the things I do too on my like super large listings, like some of my listings are 7,000 square feet.
Yeah.
There's no way to get that into an MLS description. That does not do the house justice. So I will put together an actual presentation of all of the features, some beautiful pictures. And because a lot of these, $3, $4 million houses are accompanied shows, I'm there, but in advance of the accompanied show, I'll send the presentation to the listing or the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
And I'll say, hey, this is something that you can share with your client to look like a rock star about this gorgeous house. It sets the tone already for value.
Yeah.
Because, if you're trying to share why is this house worth $3.4 million, well, if you start off there, how are they going to even negotiate back with you when it's
100%.
so
Yeah.
clearly? And
That's
that sets
awesome.
you up for success.
The other thing that is interesting, the two tools you mentioned, Canva and Gamma, both have click a button and they'll create a website for you.
Yeah. And I use that as well. And
Right.
so,
So again, those tools are really getting better. So you can build literally single property sites if you wanted.
exactly. And
Right.
some,
I mean, all in the tool. So ChatGPT, let's just assume $20 a month for now, when you
yeah,
can upgrade to 200. But and then the Canva is another 15,
that's
$20.
like 20. Yeah. It's
20,
so,
so 40, we're at 40.
yeah.
And then you get Gamma, which if you buy for the year, it's like 10, $15 a month or whatever.
It's
Sure,
again
like under 50
for, I
for what you can potentially replace work hours. I mean, just,
mean,
I
like a
can't even put a
full-time
number on it.
assistant couldn't do this stuff for you
No,
in as little time. If you were paying somebody $25 an hour, they could not do one of
they
those
could
things
not. They
under
could not.
$100. And so if you are trying to justify your budget, to me, it's really worth it. Obviously, I am a proponent, though, of you got to spend a little money to make a little money. But I want my presentation to be the best. I want it to be professional and really button up, and that requires it to look good. And unless you're going to hire a digital artist, somebody who can put together those materials, why would you when you can just tell AI what to
Yeah.
do now? It's crazy.
And that's the message that, in my presentations and things that I talk about on the pod also is I think if you become skilled with AI, we're early, but I think that's the journey we're all on.
Well, I wanted to get in before because, like you said, a month in AI is a year. And
Yeah.
so I wish I got in 2 years ago because then I'd be ready and
Yeah,
early,
for sure.
you know.
But you're well ahead of the game. But my point though is if you become skilled with AI, in my mind, in my generation, I've not seen the more affordable leverage
Yeah.
than AI. It's
I
just
mean,
not
nothing.
there. With $50, I mean, I spend about $100 a month
Yeah.
for tools. Like I have a couple other things I'm testing, obviously, for learning and things like that. But under $100, the
I mean,
productivity enhancements are game changing.
for under $100 for some
Yeah,
of the listings. So
crazy. It's like
like,
a good dinner
take a
without
gap,
dessert. You know?
you know? Like,
For sure. All
but
right. What else is on your tech stack as we wind down the pod, Olivia?
so I enjoy captions. I use that sometimes for
Perfect video.
videos.
Yes.
I do a lot of Instagram video, and I'm getting more into YouTube video. So in terms of like the YouTube video, Scribe I also use. Um,
For
Virtual
SOPs and yeah,
staging AI
automation.
is great. I used to like use like what's called a box brownie. They're just using AI now. You don't need to use those services when you have virtual staging AI.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, anytime I hear some negative feedback about the house or like, hey, there's not enough storage. Well, before I even give that feedback to my client, I've got 3 versions of storage in the picture of that zone. And I say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to advertise this. This is an easy change. And because it's so proactive, my clients are just like, they don't even know what to say. They're so wowed. It
Yeah.
takes less than 5 minutes to do that. And let's see, Opus Pro, I've been
Yeah.
using.
Video. If you're going to go into video, Caption and Opus Pro for me are like, you got to dig
Opus
in.
Pro and captions are probably my two now that I'm getting more and more into video. And then you mentioned this the other day, and I actually went ahead and got it, Claude. And so I like Claude because some of these bigger listings that I'm going on, I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a great memory. And so like I want a transcript of all of the mechanicals and everything we talked about and the marketing plan that I talked about in the meeting that I can then go and be actionable from. And
Yeah.
so having that, I've only just started using it this week, but I've done it twice on, an over 2 hour long listing appointment. And then I just put that into Chat GTP and I said, create my next steps.
Yeah.
And it did it. And so like that's probably a good hour or two of work that would have taken me to rewrite it, to then reorganize it. That's now 5 minutes. And again, allows me to then go do the things that only I can do.
Yeah, 100%. And not to be confused with Claude, which is
Yeah.
another large language model. We're talking about Claude,
Quad. P.
as Olivia said. So it's like a hardware device. Again, there's different Otters similar, but I felt Claude is slightly better than Otter because you can kind of not have to be relying on your phone. You can just leave it in your
Yeah,
pocket and do
it's
things like
physical.
that.
Yeah.
And for the listeners of the pod, you get $10 off. We'll put a link in the show notes. Plod reached out to us. I
I
said,
use it. It's great.
perfect. Yeah. So good stuff. I mean, I think you're still under $100, Olivia. I mean, your affordable leverage is crazy.
And so I mean, and that can allow me to then be smarter with how I'm doing, digital marketing in other spaces.
Yeah.
And that digital marketing is better because all of the digital assets that I'm working with are consistent and they're made in Canva and everything's just beautiful. And so to me, it's that allows me to optimize
Yeah,
and
for sure.
again, really use my brain where it's needed most.
Yeah. Your creativity is the only limitation you have with AI,
Well,
right?
that's to me the hardest way to get into it, though. Too, people
Oh,
are
100%.
overwhelmed. But when you have stepping stones like this, like make your list, like we said earlier, and then maybe try some of these things out. And once
100%.
you tool around in it, it just gets easier with every day.
For sure, for sure. This has been fun. I think there's a lot of takeaways here from leaning in. It's never too late. Start with things that can take stuff off your plate. We
Yeah.
talked about a bunch of tools. We'll put the links to them in the show notes so you know which tool to get. Because I'll give you a funny story as we ask you the final 2 questions. One of my managers was paying for ChatGPT, and I saw him. I says, they didn't have the voice mode. I said, what do you mean you don't have the voice mode? They were using a different chat model,
Oh, that's
thinking it was ChatGPT. So there's a lot of imitators. So we're going to put the links to all of these things in the show notes so you get the right one. So my final 2 questions, Olivia, as we wind down the pod, is, you've been in real estate for how many years now?
So I just finished out my 6th year.
6th year, and you're already in the top 250 of Berkshire Hathaway, which is kudos to you. Continued success. If an agent is listening to the pod, and the advice has been, it can be anything, not just AI, anything real estate. What is the one piece of advice you'd give them that they should implement today to grow?
Well, throughout my entire career, even before AI, it's always been work smarter, not harder. Obviously, please always work really hard because that's just the basis of any entrepreneur. But if you work smarter and focus your efforts on what will get you to your next goal, that's really at the end of the day what all you need. Zig Ziglar has a good saying. It's called "Win what's important now, do those things first, get that out the door. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if it's done and it's done well, it's better to get it out. And so work smarter, figure out your efficiencies. You'll be able to run circles around all these other agents.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I've always lived with this philosophy that done is better than perfect, because perfect is usually never done.
It's never done. Well, you'll
Right.
never finish it because perfect is very, very hard to achieve.
Yeah.
And in our industry, I even say this to clients, like if you get 80% of the way there and you're happy, that's great. Or a solid B, but
That's
the same
awesome.
because you said about houses, find a great house, 80% of it, you're never going to find the perfect house.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
yourself, and even then it's not perfect. So
That's great. So final question. I mean, I don't know if you're a book person or a podcast person, but
lots of books.
lots of books. Okay. So you can lean in on books, but was there one that was really more impactful than the others that really shaped you to who you are today?
Well, I would say, I can answer both one podcast and one book. So one book, I started with How to Win Friends and Influence People. That has been a foundation of my career. It is still very relevant. This is the human focused side of our business that you cannot replace. No AI will be able to do that. And if you are looking for a book that's going to give you a little bit of inspiration, it's got these short, different little stories that really make you think about how you can be a better salesperson. And so that would be my end all be all. That's the book. And then the podcast actually is It's a Good Life. Brian Buffini. I am a Buffini girl. I'm an optimist. I love the way he presents information. I'm a huge fan. It's a free podcast as well. If you're in the car, you're a real estate agent, just throw that on. And some of the things he said have absolutely resonated with me and have gotten me through some of those really tough negotiations, super stressful times. He's very inspirational.
Yeah, he's awesome. So great. This has been great, Olivia. Thank you for taking the time. And it was so good to see you in Chesapeake earlier in the year. And I'm hoping to see you at some point later this year, somewhere our paths will cross.
We'll do the conference circuit eventually.
At some point, yes, for sure. So appreciate you and continued success.
Thank you so much.
You made it to the end. Nice. My goal with this podcast is to elevate your AI skills every week. If you found value in the show, your goal is to follow, share with a fellow agent, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and leave us a review, as it helps us reach more agents like you.